Hi everyone, it's John from Peach Guitars. I've got Jack with me today as well, and I've also got Simon from Origin Effects.
Great to be here.
Good man. The whole purpose of today is to have a chat about the new RevivalDRIVE, some of the features. I mean, you've done loads of kind of comprehensive how-tos, I know, with you know, on your own website, on YouTube and stuff. But I wanted to kind of address some of the points that people have come to us with and asked, how do I achieve this, and with my modern amp, and how do I achieve, you know, other different things with the rig that we use. And I'm going to play through a two-rock, you know, a more modern day, like boutique single channel type sort of amp, and Jack's going to do some stuff through a Friedman. So these are two modern day, you know, fairly obtainable amps that you can get. And we just wanted to also go through seeing how the RevivalDRIVE actually works with things like Fuzzes and Overdrives, again, you know, normal off-the-shelf type sort of pedals. So why don't you start off with a few licks for us? So we're going through the Friedman, aren't we, at the moment? Let's have a look. Yeah, Friedman. Bypass sound of the amp there. Just so I thought kind of the best way to use the pedal with this amp and that kind of setup was to use the blend control a little bit more. Perhaps yeah, play a little bit more, and I'll go through the blend from going backwards from the pure signal of the pedal to hear a little bit more of the dry sound.
Okay, sure. Okay, so.
It kind of adds a little bit of the original signal back into it, and you get a little bit more of that attack out of it, which is kind of like how I really like to use it. So it gives you the feel of the amp kind of being a little bit more cranked up, I guess.
Yeah, sounds nice.
Cool, so if we wanted to further kind of enhance that bass sound that we've got there, I see we've got the custom foot switch plugged in as well. What can we do to kind of enhance the sound there as well?
Okay, so I mean, at the moment we're listening to quite a lot of the dry element of the, you know, the basic, the pure sound of the amp that we're plugged into, and we've got a little bit of the overdrive of this blended in. If we hit the blend override, then it basically jumps to having this control fully clockwise, which is all the sound that the pedal's producing. Yeah. So that allows you to kind of kick it up to...
yeah, perhaps if you're going up the top end to get a bit more extra sustain or something as you go up there.
Yeah. It kind of gives you almost like another channel, if you like. It's you could use like this for rhythm and...
Okay, well let's try that on that lower setting there, and then Jack, do you want to hit the blend override?
Yeah.
As we... Nice, yeah, it's almost like adding a, you know, it gives you that same kind of feeling or the same kind of response as then adding like a pedal into the front end to push it a bit more.
Smooths it out, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I imagine with a bit more gain as well, perhaps we would get more of a pronounced effect still. Oh, so we start with that off. Okay. So.
Nice, but the response still kind of doesn't change, does it? It's still, you know, it's still got that same inherent tone, but it kind of just fills it out a bit more.
Yeah, it just kind of kicks it up a level, I think.
Yeah, but then you've also got can you explain what the dry gain control does there as well?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So if you so the dry gain level controls the level of the dry signal on this side of the pot.
Yeah.
So if you had it fully clockwise, it would be purely dry, and then you could change the level of that signal with this.
Oh, so you can actually
dry
boost
gain
that
control.
higher.
So it depends if you wanted to go from a fully overdriven sound. Well, if you wanted to go from a blended sound and then step up to an overdriven sound, what we've just done, then you would want the dry gain down low, so that the sound on this side of the pot is quieter, and then when you kick up to this side, it gets louder. But you can do the opposite. You could. I guess you could be in the middle of a
distorted
song.
rhythm, and then like a cleaner sound for lead or something like that, maybe.
Yes, you could kick your clean solo above the level of the band, and kind of fight through the
bit
mix.
extra cut as well from that. And then on the foot switch there, we've got that mid engage control as well. Can you talk us through that?
Okay, so we've got a mid boost that's placed after the overdrive.
Yeah.
So it allows you to kind of carve a place in the mix of the band. So I mean, a lot of when people are mixing records and stuff, they'll kind of give each instrument a little pocket within the mix.
Of course, yeah.
So we can dial in, like we've got a mid-level control here and a mid-frequency control, and we can just basically boost.
That's a great tool to have for a live context, isn't it?
It works really well. It doesn't really change the tone that much, but it just makes it louder and cut through without it actually being
so
too much
effectively
louder.
on that one channel, you can then get a multitude of different sounds by having the blend and the mid on as well. So let's try, just play again, and we'll try switching some of those in. So try turning the mid on and off, and then the blend as well, and then the blend, and then the mid on and off with that as well.
Okay, yeah, when you've got the blend override off, and you engage the mid, then the mid is only applied to the overdrive.
Yeah,
so
sure,
the signal,
to the wet signal effectively.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so.
Yeah, it retains all the dynamics, but just gives it that nice, like, extra character in the cut, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's the mid sort of just below halfway, but if we turn it up, it'll be more of that sort of cocktail sort of sound.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of how we're using it at the moment, I would say, is for someone who's got a really nice single channel amp like the Friedman, that's got a distinct kind of character, and they really want to enhance the sound and not kind of dramatically change it. The settings that we're kind of using at the moment are ideal for that, because I think when we switch it on and then turn those extra switches on, you can really hear that it's doing something kind of it's doing something, but it's not like completely changing the overall sound, but that's what a lot of people are going to want.
It's built into the amp.
Yeah, it's built into the amp. It's like there's an extra boost inbuilt within the amp. So I think with this pedal, it isn't just, you know, for people that want to have like a Fender Twin and turn it on and it goes into a massive like wall of fuzz and distortion and all that kind of stuff. If you've got your favourite vintage style amp and you really just want to add some really small tweaks to it, then it's a really, really great device for that. We was messing around with the Strat earlier. Perhaps I can plug the Strat in now. And what we'll do is we'll go to the get my pick out of my pocket. We'll go to the 2-rock, and we'll see if we can like kind of get the ultimate Fendery type sort of clean sound going on, and then switch the Revival in to try and get us a more kind of lighter, kind of like that sort of rhythm tone that we was getting earlier, Jack. Yeah. So this is the bypassed sound. So now let's turn that on, just to give us more of like a lower gain kind of like chordal rhythm type sort of sound. If we turn that off, we've still got that kind of still chimey clean. Yeah, so that's exactly like how I would use it to give me that.
It doesn't seem like it's really chopping off any frequencies.
No, but and it still feels like I'm playing through an amp. It doesn't feel, you know, that all the dynamics are lost. Like a lot of pedals, you know, that really change the sound. When you play through the amp, you lose that original response that why you bought the amp in the first place. So what we're getting at the moment there, it's just adding that extra bit of kind of warmth and kind of sustain, but without kind of completely obliterating the core signal. And I did have a couple of customers asking how the pedal reacts, you know, with fuzzes and boosters and all that kind of stuff. And the best way to demonstrate this is, we had the fuzz on earlier, the full tone 69. I always think fuzzes sound loads better either into an overdrive pedal or like an already driven, you know, sort of amp, whereas when you run them into a very, very clean sounding Fender, it can be really like sizzly and kind of thin sounding. What we'll do is we'll keep this on, the RevivalDRIVE on, so that's the sound that we got there now. Switch that fuzz on for us, Jack, and then what we'll do is halfway through, do you want to turn the RevivalDRIVE off so we hear what it would be like
what
without?
What the fuzz actually sounds like.
Yeah. Extra bottom end. Lovely.
Just put that mid engage on partway through that, just because that's going to help you cut through it. Sometimes with a fuzz, you might find it gets
right
lost.
out, can't it? Yeah. Try that again. Can I hear that again? That's got it, innit?
I really liked it with that mid engaged actually.
Yeah,
kind of
really cutting through well, and it kind of just beefs up the overall sound, doesn't it? But gives it a bit of focus as well, rather than it all going kind of squishing in and compressing.
So it's several pedals in one.
Yeah,
and that's before we even got to the other side as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So we've got this extra channel here as well. So one of the things when I was reading through all the features that you can actually replicate this channel onto the valve rectifier kind of channel as well. But before we do that, Jack, do you want to have a play through and we'll see if we can kind of really identify the main issue, like the main differences in tone between those, like the two channels, how much more squishier it is on the bottom end on the valve rectifier. So hit the old tuner there, Jack. You can give that a go. So yeah, let's probably stay through the 2-rock.
Yeah,
for this.
Just for context.
talk about the ghost control as well,
Yeah.
within the context of the differences between the two channels, I think.
Yeah, okay.
So, because that's...
So where would you like to start? Just where we are on the silicon rectifier channel?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And if we just if we just demonstrate what this control does.
Yeah, sure.
So we're looking at...
you hear it more as you go up the top end?
Yeah, it's more sort of probably between the 5th fret and the 15th fret on the higher 3 strings.
Okay.
With when you're kind of pushing the pedal harder, so it's producing more overdrive, and you'll get like a
secondary kind of note almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a lower sort of note that comes in, and that's something that you get on old amplifiers, particular old amplifiers.
But when they're very loud.
Yeah.
So this enables you to do it at a lower volume.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So try
okay.
that.
All right. So let's just find some notes. And the neck pickup seems to help bring them out as well.
Yeah. If I go to the bridge and go up a bit higher. It kind of gives the impression that you're playing through a bigger cab.
Yeah.
In a way, because
cool.
those subharmonics.
Well, it's got those weird extra artifacts that kind of, it's so hard to get out of a pedal, to try and achieve that sort of feel and vibe at a lower volume level.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it kind of gives it a 3-dimension sort of feel, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we've not really got the amps that loud, have we? It's not like pummeling over across our talking volume. So yeah, I'll just bring that right back. Do the same sort of thing, Jack.
That's great.
So just quickly staying on this channel, if we really wanted to change the overall kind of EQ without adding kind of, extra gain, if we wanted to kind of really fatten the sound up of this amp, let's just bypass it we're on bypass. Yeah, try that. So that's the bass. So if we wanted to use this more as of a kind of like a preamp to add a little bit more low end or take some top end out of it, how would we best achieve that by using the bright cap switch and the preamp stuff on here?
Okay, right. So so the bright cap allows, if you had a lower gain setting dialed in on this control here, then the bright cap allows the higher frequencies to bypass this. So the high frequencies are going through the control with it flat out in effect, and the low frequencies remain cleaner. So if we switch the bright cap off, then we'll get a clean tone. And then if we put it to GB, then all the mids and highs are going to bypass this control and be distorted. That's our low gain, and then so that's brighter, and it's so bright that the high frequencies start to distort more.
Yeah.
And then the preamp switch in the middle, that's based on a Marshall with all the tone controls set in the middle. If we go GB, then it's with the bass cut to 0, which is what a lot of people do when they crank vintage amps, and then the mid and the treble boosted, so we try that. And then US is brighter still because it's the same approach, bass 0, everything else cranked, but on a blackface amp.
So the mids pull back a bit.
Is that in the
That's
bridge?
on the in-between.
Yeah, on the in-betweens, yeah.
So we've got, I mean, that's probably one of the brightest settings. I mean, if you were going for like a blackface sort of sound, then you probably wouldn't want the British style bright cap. You'd have that switched off. So
if we had a really bright sounding amp and we really wanted to make it sound a little bit darker, how would we achieve that?
Okay, so you'd want to turn the preamp to the middle. You'd want the bright cap off as well.
Yeah.
And you'd turn the lows up.
Yeah. And then these bad boys here, can these?
Oh, of course, yeah, right. Here? Well, you've got so the bright cap cup, basically that's designed to compensate for an amplifier that has a bright cap. Certain vintage amps have bright caps on the volume control, so that's. But I mean, it's also a great tool for just rolling off a lot of treble.
Yeah.
So I mean, and here you've got a shelf control, so that will roll off to a certain point, and then the frequency response will flatten out again. This one just rolls off to infinity.
Now let's see if we can make this telly as fat as possible.
Yeah.
this one will take it to extremes, really.
I mean, if you want to really fat, I'm just going to put the blend on now. So let's see how fat we can make this telly sound.
Still got clarity though.
Yeah, it sounds like, you know, you've gone up to a basement or just turned all the EQs up, don't it? Kind of thing, a basement or a JTM 45
Although it's not
or something
sort of
like
sagging
that.
out on the low end, is it?
So I guess, you know, the whole point, you know, what I'm coming back to is you can really change your overall tone if you want, but it can be as subtle as like how we first started off in the video as well. So there's a lot of versatility in there. I guess anyone that comes in and tries one of these out, you do have to spend a bit of time with it. It's not going to be absolute instant gratification. When you do turn it on, it'll, you know, if you put everything at halfway, it's still going to be a good tone. But you know, if there's a vintage tone, you know, that was on a record in the 60s and 70s or early 80s or whatever, it's in there, isn't it? Pretty much.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely.
And you can achieve that through a Fender style amp, or you know, or a Marshall, even, you know, right through to modern day, you know, type sort of amps as well. So
I mean, I don't think there's too many controls that you can go too far wrong with. I mean,
no.
The key one is this reamp EQ. That's designed to sound good. It's designed to interface the pedal well with particular amps.
So this is like your first choice when you plug it in. That's your first switch to adjust.
Exactly. If you get that in the right place, then you can't really go too far wrong with these. You'll change the tone, but you'll be getting good tone, but it'll just.
So
be
if we was on a
so.
brighter sounding amp, we'd be on EQ1, would we?
That's right.
And then EQ2 for like a darker kind of rhythm sound, I guess.
Yeah, EQ1 would be like a bright sort of Fender type sound.
Yeah, if you want to tame the highs a bit more.
EQ2 would be like a more Marshall-y sort of thing where it's got more bottom end, so you're not having to compensate for a lack of bottom. I'm just going to do a little bit of switching there. Just do a bit of playing.
Should we switch to the Friedman amp so you can
hear
that kind of quality?
Okay, yeah. Right, so we're on the Friedman again now. Taking the top end away, hasn't it? Because that's a darker sounding amp.
Have we still got...
Yeah, try that.
So we've kind of rolled off. We've still got the top end removed, so we should probably put that
back in.
And then move that to the middle, yeah.
Opens it back up, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it definitely, but that EQ1 definitely worked better with the 2-rock, didn't it? Because of that cleaner front end.
And then you've got the power amp setting, which allows you to plug through a flat power amp. So that sounds completely different from the other two.
But you still need like a speaker emulator or something like that.
Well, if the power amp's going into a guitar cabinet,
then you wouldn't. Yeah,
fine.
Yeah.
But if you were doing,
you could effectively run that into like an effects return, could you? On an
yeah,
effects loop?
That's right. Yeah.
And then, so if you wanted to use this unit direct into an interface like what we're using here, so you'd run it in that power amp mode and then use a speaker simulation or something like that. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Right, so we've pretty much covered everything that this channel can do. Let's go through some of this, like the main response differences and the main kind of tonal differences and the reasons kind of why you chose a silicon and a valve rectifier, modes on these as well. So why don't we put everything at, is everything all set flat there and the same on each channel now?
Yeah, so I'm going to take out the parallel function just because...
So we can hear more of the pedal, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and we set it up the same.
I mean, when I played through this channel for the first time, it just reminded me of like Neil Young's kind of like real sort of saggy, like almost getting into Fuzz kind of sort of sound with when the gain was up higher, but it really, really nailed that kind of sound for me. Yeah,
I modelled this after some very early kind of brown Fender amps that I have. But yeah, let's hear the difference. So what amp are we going through now? Just the 2-rock?
Yeah, we probably want to do it through the 2-rock. Just yeah, that's the 2-rock. Right.
Okay. All right, yeah. So silicon. Let's hear the silicon one that we've been listening to so far. And then we'll go for the valve.
I can hear that straight away.
Yeah. Warmer. It's more dynamic, I think, as well.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're playing like a sequence of notes, then you're kind of the first part of the note is loud, and then it sags.
Yeah.
A bit more.
Just after you've hit the note, which gives it a kind of spongier feel.
I think that. Do you know Funk 49?
Yeah.
Yeah, play that. Yeah, it's that kind of sound. Let's dial in some more lows and a bit more gain. Try that now, Jack. It's got that now, doesn't it? Absolutely definite.
The sound of the telly.
Yeah. I found that I liked guitars that have got stronger or bridge pick. Guitars that are known for their bridge pickups, like Tellys. I guess like Les Paul Juniors. I really liked on the Valve Rectifier, and me being a Strat player, I like the Silicon Rectifier channel because it has that more immediacy to the attack. Sure. When you get that more thump on the bottom end, but. I guess I would spend most of the time on the Valve Rectifier channel if I was probably playing a
I quite like setting this one up for a tweedy kind of tone that's quite bassy, and setting this one up for more of a Marshally kind of sort of 70s sound with a lot of presence.
Yeah.
And then you can switch between the two, and it just gives you a really good kind of palette of tones, especially when you start using the other stuff. So this would be the Marshally type thing. And then we can switch straight to tweed.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right, can we try
2 amps in a box?
Yeah, you can totally hear those differences there are just straight away. And if you are a real addict for that Silicon Rectifier channel, you can duplicate that one.
Yeah, you can.
Onto
so there's some dip switches on the back, and you just put one of them in switch.
So
one
you
of
could
them
have
in
one set for a little bit cleaner and then one a bit louder. So yeah, so we had other customers as well asking to see how it worked with like overdrive pedals and booster pedals in the front end. I know we've touched on the fuzz already, but I just kind of wanted to see on how the response changed or kind of how the overall feel was when we kicked in a booster pedal. So why don't we try something a little bit more kind of subtle on this channel here. Yeah. Okay, so...
And just to clarify, even though it doesn't look like it, the boost is actually going into the Revival Drive.
So it's hitting the front end of the Revival Drive like you would with, if you was plugging a boost pedal into, straight into the front of an amp. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So give us the bypass sound to start with. That could almost be like your dirty kind of rhythm sound or your low gain lead tone.
Yeah, it's like, I guess it's people tend to do this with an amplifier that's on the edge of breakup, don't they? So
exactly.
I guess that's what we're
trying to achieve. Yeah, let's try that. Still plays nicely with that. It didn't start, overly compressing or the bottom end kind of sucking away or getting too fizzy. So,
give it a push with the level and see.
Yeah,
just see if it gets nasty.
you can hear it's got amp-like sort of headroom, hasn't it, as well?
Yeah, because sometimes when you stack overdrive pedals together,
yeah, I'm not a big fan of that normally.
Sure, yeah.
Because the Origin's got all of the frequency bandwidth there, it remains intact.
Yeah, well, it feels more like an amp, doesn't it? Basically, we're going into a really good quality amp, and we're massively changing the overall kind of feel without it sounding like a pedal.
Yeah, I mean the input stage of this thing, when you plug a guitar straight into it, there's a clipping stage there that's designed not to clip with guitar level.
Yeah.
But being conscious of the fact that people will do this, as you turn it up, that stage is there to give it to sound like the input stage of a valve amp that's hit hard with the pedal. It's designed to.
And I guess with the whole point of this, if you're like a touring musician, that could be almost the last pedal in your rig, no matter what amp you turn up with. And if you've got all your other pedals going into the front end of that, you always know that with the EQs and everything that's on there, you can get even like a Hot DeVille or a Roland Jazz Chorus or something like that. You're going to be able to get some nice warmth.
To know, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit like when you see bass players turn up with their favourite DI or preamp or something on their pedal board.
Yeah, I mean this is a nice, luxury for us to be able to play through a 2-Rock and a Friedman, but I've tried it through solid state amps. We've got a Wampler amp upstairs, which is just so clean and so revealing. It's actually like, for some overdrives it can be a little bit too punishing, but I thought that was going to be the ultimate test for me, trying the RevivalDRIVE through that, and I got it sounding like what we've got here.
Right, sure, yeah.
So that works really well. So you can have all your pedal board going into the front, and that could be like your amp, your main amp setting, and then if you do have that switch on, you can have then the valve rectifier channel working as the silicone rectifier, but with more gain or more volume or whatever, so it can almost be used as a volume boost.
Here's your lead boost as well.
Yeah.
And did you say the ghosting feature works differently on the two?
Slightly differently, yeah. I mean, let's have a listen, shall we?
Okay.
So let's turn that to the max. Right, so this will be a bit harder sounding, and you'll hear more of the double tone. So this channel's a bit subtler. I mean, the tones are slightly different, and they've got like a softer sort of sound about them.
Yeah.
I mean, if I can I plug in and I can just...
Do you want to stay through the cleaner amp?
Yeah. I mean, I've just spent sort of 2 years working out exactly what notes to play to get
this thing,
to be able to hear the double tone, because I've had to listen to it every day.
You've heard them about 12 million times.
Slightly different. Yeah. There's also a switch on the back. At the moment, the double tones are replicating what you'd get plugging a vintage amp into UK mains.
Yeah.
But one of the switches on the back actually makes it as if you were on US mains.
There's no stone unturned.
That's incredible though, because that's the kind of character that's missing from, in my experience, a lot of pedals that try and do what this is doing.
Yeah,
those natural sort of in the room elements that you miss from a cranked amp.
I don't know whether. To my knowledge, no other pedal actually does replicate sag to the degree where it's actually producing.
Not till the next NAMM show, in January.
I don't honestly know if any of the digital solutions do it either, like Kemper. I don't think. No. I think it's gone largely forgotten, really.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things that that sort of artifacts that people probably try and dial out, isn't it?
Yeah.
But when you listen to all those great old records, that's. And being in the room, we was talking about that Hendrix stuff earlier, hearing all those extra, parts of like the amp sounding like it's going to explode is what makes it, as good as it is.
Real.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I think you can try, I guess in the mid-60s, the amps did do things that the engineers didn't want them to do. And then they've kind of improved it and improved it and improved it until you get like an 80s distortion sound through a rack.
Yeah.
But,
or a studio clean sound that's absolutely got just zero character to it.
Exactly, but you want, certainly I want to hear those characterful parts of a guitar tone, because those are the bits that kind of.
But does this pedal sort of approach that in a way? Can you get some of those more modern not super high gain, but push it into really sort of crunchy tones as opposed to just pushing the amp? Will it do that as well?
Well, I mean, it does it within the scope of what these vintage amps will kind of achieve. It doesn't really go much further, but you can get quite a lot of gain out of sort of just the traditional kind of Marshall style amp. I mean that ought to be quite gainy, I think.
Dial that back as well, the low, so let me just put that halfway. Try that.
So there's quite a lot of gain there.
Yeah.
And then if you
add in something like that, into that sound, try that. Nice.
So I mean, it replicates the amps that loads of people used for kind of high gain tones in the 80s.
Well, the early days of I guess of heavy metal was a distortion plus or a rat or something like that, just with everything on 4, an SD1, or was it an OD1?
Well, originally OD, but SD1 is the big one.
Which is a low gain overdrive, isn't it? Really, just pushing the front end of an amp even harder. So we've got 2 versions of the RevivalDRIVE. This one's the custom. Can you just give us a quick rundown on what these little extra bits and pieces do here on the front?
Okay, right, yeah. So if we go back to the switch here, the reamp EQ switch.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you've got a 3-way switch. You turn up at a gig, you don't know what backline you're going into, or you maybe got 3 different amps that you like to use, and this just allows you to instantly tune the pedal to a particular amp.
Okay.
So on the standard one, we've got EQ2 is a fixed kind of filter shape, but on the custom unit, it reverts to these controls on the front.
Okay.
And you would plug into your amp. You've got a mode switch. The one mode is set up for a very bright amp. One switch is for a darker amp. So you just select whichever applies to your amplifier, and then you would just get like a plectrum.
Oh yeah.
And you would just play some open strings while you just adjust this until it sounds right. And then you've got the sort of this frequency control, which makes a very minor adjustment. You just, in the last stage, you would just tweak that until it sounded absolutely spot on. And then once it's set, these are all recess controls, so they're not going to get knocked.
No.
So you might set that for if it was a Vox that you had, say you had a Vox and a Fender amp, then you know that EQ1 would be great for your Fender, and then now that you've set this for your Vox, EQ2, whenever you put the reamp switch to EQ2, it's always going to sound great through that particular amp. So it's kind of set and forget. Yeah. But if you do fly into a gig and you've got some unknown amp or whatever, then you can set it again.
You're always battling with the extra harsh top end, aren't you? I guess, which is something that we found really, you can really make it smooth, can't you? With this pedal. So,
but I just had it in mind these kind of fly rigs that people tend to use now. These touring musicians don't really, a lot of the time they don't really carry a backline around with them, and session guitarists or whatever might just, particularly in the States, they'll get on a plane to fly to some other part of the country, and all they've got with them is a small pedal board, and so that's got to do everything that they need.
But what's nice about this is an analog solution to that problem, isn't it? Without having to step into the digital modelling kind of realm if you don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. I mean, I don't think the digital thing's for everybody. No. It's for me, I prefer analog. Yeah. I think this gets really close. I've tested it alongside all the real amps that I've bought when developing the pedal, and it nails it really well.
I think with this pedal as well, I keep nailing the point home. But if you're one of those people that likes to have a really clean amp, like maybe a Sir Bella, the Dr. Z M12, that kind of amp that are like almost it's kind of almost a power amp with a speaker on it, you know, so you can use all your pedals to achieve your signature tone, or you use something like the Friedman that is very, very, you know, kind of very British sounding, very mid-focused. It's got that classic rock sound in a box. That can still work with that as well. So I think this really kind of opens up the versatility of the pedal, and that switch is available on both of the units, the standard one and the custom.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Just got one there. That's just one of the standard ones. You can see that it's just hasn't got the extra switches and bits and pieces at the bottom. But apart from that, is everything else identical? It's just this stuff here. Yeah.
That's about it, really. Yeah. I mean the two outer switches on this front panel here.
Yeah. I'll hold that up for you.
What they do is they actually change the operation frequencies of the treble controls that we were tweaking before.
Yeah.
So on the custom unit, you've got 3 different treble frequencies that you can adjust at. So one of them would roll off like the kind of fizz that you get on Overdrive.
Yeah.
And if you say you back that off, then it just takes a bit of the fizz off. It's kind of like changing between a dark sounding speaker and a bright speaker. Yeah. And then at the full extreme, the lowest frequency that you can apply to this control with the switch is designed to work well against a treble control on a Fender amp. So if you wanted to, say if you set the amp up so that you've got your perfect clean tone, then basically you can adjust your overdrive tone to suit that, because you shouldn't have to set your clean tone to
suit your overdrive. Yeah, exactly. But they are like amps like that Super Reverb that we've got here. They're notoriously hard to get pedals to work with, unless you can get the volume up to like 6 or 7 when the amp's starting to cook, because it down at 2 or 3, it's got so much of that mid cutback and that real extreme top end, hasn't it? You know, that a lot of drive pedals can just sound so fizzy and
I think it's the same
harsh.
I think that's because of the bright cap switch. So I mean, that's where this bright cap cut thing comes in. This is designed to basically do the opposite of what that's doing. So it will sound good on 1 or 2. You'll just dial this in until it stops sounding horrible on the amp.
And on this, you've got there's a mode where you can where these become active. Is that correct? When the pedal's off? There's like a preamp mode on there, isn't there, as well?
Right. So so
if you've got a really terrible sounding amp, you can really dial it in when the pedal's off.
What it is for is if you're plugging into a power amp, or if you're plugging straight into your recording interface via a speaker simulator.
Okay.
Then ordinarily, when you turn the pedal off, well, if you're going into a power amp, it would just be like plugging the guitar into a power amp, which would sound terrible. So if you use one of the dip switches on the back, then what it does is it engages this preamp shape.
Right. Okay, that's it.
Which is based on the measured shapes of actual guitar amps.
So it's almost like simulate a sound of like a Fender or a Marshall.
So it'll allow you to plug into a power amp, and you can have the pedal off, and it'll sound like you're going into an actual guitar amp. And then when you turn the pedal on, it's like you've added overdrive. So
we've all been there when we've had to your amp's gone down at a gig, and you've had to play through the PA or something like that. If you kept in your gig bag one of the basic, I guess, speaker emulator type sort of boxes that you can get to use with something like this, should that sort of thing ever happen, you're going to be able to get through without it being complete disaster.
And those emulators are getting quite advanced now. I mean, there's quite a few digitals.
No, absolutely. There's so much good stuff for the sounds that you can achieve at home in the recording setups now and stuff. There's just so many good solutions out there for that, but you still can't reproduce the feel and the when you play through something like this, like digital simulations, they just don't have that feel, do they? And the overall response, like what you get through something that's totally analog like this. Cool. Right, well, why don't we Jack, do you want to switch to the this Les Paul here and go through the Friedman, and perhaps take us out with some insane shredding?
Okay.
Put you on the spot now. So we'll try. Right. So we're through the Friedman now. Let's. I'm going to pull this back, and we'll set it up so it's a little bit more subtle. And we'll try switching in the fuzz and the tumness and stuff like that as well. So I guess, is this how you'd probably use it with an amp like this? Just
Well,
a little
more
bit
of like a boost sort of
yeah,
thing.
more of a boost, just to enhance what's there.
Yeah, and then it's great having all that control to fine tune the boost, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
All right, give us a few riffs and a bit of lead and stuff. And
The thing, using this parallel thing, if you like the sound of the Friedman already, but you wanted to have some of the double tone, then this allows you to, having that blend function allows you to add, in effect,
Some of that
add the
in
double tone to the sound.
Yeah, without colouring the tone fully.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll switch that blend overriding as well, perhaps when you go up the top end.
Yeah, yeah.
So a bit of that. There is like enhancing it more and more, and adding more elements to it, but not really kind of like taking anything away from it. It's just enhancing what's there, isn't it? I think so. Yeah, it works really well. Try that, Jack.
Yeah, very dynamic, very responsive, isn't it? And when you go down low, it doesn't mush out.
Yeah.
Great. Nice. What a pedal.
Awesome. Right. Well, you know, without going too deep into the features, I know we've gone into it pretty deep, but you know, we could spend all day kind of going through every single feature and you know, and kind of you know, every single little tweak that we can do to it. I think that gives everyone, you know, a good overview of what the pedal can achieve for a few different guitars and different amps and stuff like that. So I would say, yeah, just come in and try one out, or just buy one. Do plenty of tweaking at home, and I'm sure you'll be able to get anything you could ever want out of it. So I'm sure Simon would say just buy it. So there you go. So anyway, thanks for your time. Thanks for coming to see us. Much appreciated. And now we know how it works. Brilliant. Cheers, guys. Right.